We're going to be starting with the foundation. Thank you. I need a whistle, is right. For the foundation, we had a couple of pages that were left over by the annual reports that are on that table. If you didn't get one, please grab those. During this meeting, it's being broadcast. I trust that that's working. There's ways for those that are watching to let us know if they have any questions or issues, concerns. And there's a phone number that will be coming up on the next screen. Next page, there we go, Aaron's phone number. So feel free to send a text to him and he'll relay the message to me as needed. That same phone number is on the bottom of every slide that's in the presentation. So you should be able to get those. I call to order the Community of the Cross Foundation. My name is Kurt Peterson. I'm the current president for the foundation. To begin, I'd like to welcome everyone here and also those that are listening online. I'd like to introduce the other members of the board. Most of our members seem to have decided to go somewhere where it's a little warmer or have other issues, so they're not here today. So the other members are Virgil Jelsma, Vice President, Jay Hendrickson, Treasurer, Jim Stoops, Secretary, Rick Gustafson, Mary Halfstead, and Terry Peterson as other members. So Terry's right here. You can recognize him. He and I are the representatives attending today. So first thing I'd like to do is to review the 2022 annual meeting minutes. We needed to update the information that was included in the annual report that you received as part of your booklet, because included in there was the item that the 2021 minutes were approved, and they were not. They were missed. So we had to update both the 2022 minutes that were in the book, and then there's also, as part of the pages being handed out, at 2021 minutes. So we look to approve these. We'll approve the 2020 minutes after the 2022 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the updated 2022 minutes? Josh? Any second? Lee? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against, same sign. Okay. Motion approved. Again, as I said before, we missed getting the 2021 minutes approved last year, so we'll do that now. Do I have a motion to approve the 2021 minutes? Lois? Second? Eric? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Next, we'll have the 2022 financials. Again, Jay wasn't able to be here, so I'll cover it for him. The first page of the financial report is the balance sheet. Really not any significant changes in the past year. I'd like to note that the foundation's bank accounts have been moved from Highland Bank to American Christian Credit Union. So all the balances that you see from December of 2021, they're at Highland Bank. All of those in December 2022 are now at the new credit union. So thank you, Kristen. Kristen Walker's sitting over there for helping make that happen. So thank you. The second page of the financial report is the balances by fund. The page in your book is missing the far right-hand column, so that's what we made an extra copy and handed out earlier. During the year, the organ fund was transferred to the church as part of the purchasing for the new organ. We'll be talking about that later. And some various gifts were received as part of the endowment fund during the year. Any questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve these updated financials? George, thanks. Second? Josh? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against, same sign. Okay. Next, we need to move on to the election of the board members. Even though Jim Stoops' terms have exceeded the bylaws maximum of three-year terms. For continuity purposes, we ask the congregation to approve the extension by 1 additional year. That'll be similar to what was done last year for Jay Hendrickson and Terry Peterson. And also to approve my election to a second three-year term, which should have been done back in 2021. So it's just a couple of cleanup items that we wanted to get taken care of. Do I have a motion to approve these updates? Lee? Second? Barb? All those indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against, same sign. Okay, motion approved. Next, we'd like to approve the members that started after the 2022 annual meeting. At last year's annual meeting, Terry asked for volunteers. Mary, Rick, and Virgil came forward and offered to do that, and so we'd ask for a motion to confirm their membership on the board. Anybody make a motion? Mark? Second? Mark Welkin. Second? Eric? Oh. Eric Megan? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against, same sign. Motion approved. Finally, the foundation is putting forward the names of Matthew Perry, Carla Steinbach, and Scott Swanson to be new members of the board. I'd ask them to stand. I see Scott Swanson, if you'd stand, please. Carla Steinbach and Matthew Perry. Thank you. So we're putting forward their names to be new members. I ask any other nominations from the floor? Okay. Seeing none, we'll ask for to approve their membership. Amy? Yep, thanks. Any second? Gretchen? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against, same sign. I'm not aware of any new or old business to add today. Any other information from the congregation that needs to be discussed? Okay. We'll move on to the President's report. I just want to mention a couple items. Early in the year, the board agreed that the focus needs to be to encourage CCL members and friends of the church to include the endowment fund in their estate plans. So we began with a review of what 4 other churches were doing and targeted the following areas. First, we wanted to recognize those that have included the foundation in their estate plans as legacy partners, which we hope will encourage others to also do that. These families have been a part of our church's past to build a legacy and provide funding for the future. We updated the endowment brochure and then updated the congregation at All Saints Sunday, where we remember those from the past who helped build this church. Looking to next year, we plan to develop a plan to provide periodic communications to the congregation and to review the organization of the foundation to ensure it is able to properly administer and invest these gifts. A reminder that the endowment fund is intended to benefit future needs of the church, with the income from the fund to be used as designated by the church council. Any questions? Lots of motions, so thank you for your help in getting through those. That concludes our meeting. I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Lois? Second? Bob? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what?
Well, hello, my name is Eric Burfine, and I'm the church council president. I would say I'm a little bit jealous of the foundation's no new business and no old business. Church council has a little bit different setup here, so You can see the meeting agenda here. We're going to bring a call to order for the meeting and then recognitions, go through the reports, go through the organ purchase, nominations, past report, closing prayer, and then we'll do a motion to adjourn. So we can go to the next slide. Hearing out there. We can go to the next slide. All right. First of all, just let you know who are members of the church council. So I've introduced myself already. Aaron here is vice president. You've seen Matt already as treasurer. Bobby, Jody, Lizzie, Casey, Eric, Sydney, Stu, if you are here, you want to stand and be recognized. Thank you so much. All right, we can go to the next slide. CCLC staff, we would like to recognize these people as well. If you were here, Eric, Jamie, Jenna, Deb, Janelle, Kristen, Sandy, Marcia, and Berto, if you were here, please stand. Continuing on these lines, Personnel Committee, Jess, Mike, Micah, and Francine, if you are here, please stand. Jess is here. There is a note here, we are in need of 2 more members, and I believe that Jess and Mike are ending their terms as well, so we're going to be in need of a lot more members. So one of the themes you're going to see from our meeting today is that we need the whole congregation to in this time of transition and change, to kind of step up and volunteer and for all of us to work together. So if you're interested in the Personnel Committee, they meet usually once a year when we get into budget talk and look at staffing and those things, but then if we have people leave or openings at staff, then they're a little bit more involved. So not a huge time commitment, but we are looking for 2 new members and possibly 2 more probably in the middle of summer, end of summer. So we can go to the next slide. All right, so we're going to start with a review of the and approval of the 2022 annual meeting minutes. It should be in your packet. Is there any comments or discussion before we get into motions? Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion to approve the 2022 annual meeting minutes. Terry, second. Lizzie, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next one. 2022 financial review. Matt's going to take this one on.
Good morning, everyone. Before we dive into actual numbers, I'd like to make a few comments on the year. So this is my 4th and final year as the treasurer of this congregation. And each year that I've been in this role has proved challenging in a unique way, and 2022 was no different. On a macro level, the year brought a step towards normalization after COVID, but it also brought inflation that this country hasn't seen in decades. This and the overall market decline pressured giving to the church, which led us to missing our budget, and even worse, we actually had our first year-over-year decline in many years. On a micro level, our building encountered several issues that needed repair, and this caused our expenses to spike, which in turn has lowered our reserves. So I want to say, before we go into the numbers, I'm very proud to be a member of this church council because we've taken a lot of prudent, conservative steps over the past few years, and this has prepared us for this double impact. I'd say we managed the year without coming to the congregation for a capital raise for needs rather than wants, and I'm very proud of that. Let's go to the next slide. So these are the financial highlights we'll touch on. So income and expenses were both 1.6% below what was budgeted. I think the important thing to call out up front is the only reason that expenses were below budget is that we lowered the mortgage payments to the minimum, and we utilized our reserves and dedicated funds to cover the building needs. The bottom of the slide has some other quick highlights I'd like to cover. As Kurt said, Kristen Walker put in a lot of hard work to getting a banking relationship started with America's Christian Credit Union. And this move raises our interest income potential, and it also establishes a relationship with another large lender that we may need to use in the future. Additionally, we're able to pre-fund some future project needs within audiovisual and within the capital improvement accounts. And we also tied additional funds to our 4 core service partners. I'm going to speak on behalf of the council. We wish it could have been more, but we are nonetheless pleased that we could contribute more than we had pledged. So let's go to the next slide. So this is where we're going to get into some more of the granular details, and we'll start with the faith promises. These missed our budget estimate by $16,000 or 2.7%. This is also 0.7% below 2021. This is unfortunate, but it's likely not too far off the expectations that I shared with everyone back when we did the special meeting for the roof. Some families have been more impacted by one-off events, financial pressures than others. And the counter to this is that I'm pleased to say numerous families gave over their pledge, which helped us stay as close to that budget as we did. Total revenue was down 1.6% and to the budget and 0.5% below 2021. Building income from third parties partially offset the faith promise decline. Total expenses, they matched the income at nearly $596,000, but that doesn't do justice for the work that we had to do to balance 2022. And there are two things I'd like to mention here. First, if you take the projects completed in 2022 or approved by the council for funding in 2023, building and grounds needs totaled $165,000, which is $75,000 or 84% more than we budgeted. We financed this from savings, dedicated accounts, and lowering the mortgage to the minimum to save $27,000. Second, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind the congregation that our mortgage is financed at a beneficial rate of 3.5% for another 3.5 years. So it's not an immediate concern that we lower the payments to the minimum, but we do need to sequentially raise that payment to brace ourselves for when the reset comes, given current interest rate environment. So let's go to the next slide and do funds available. Thank you. So this is the last slide for this section. At the end of 2022, we had $342,000 in funds available. However, most of that is in prepaid tithes and dedicated accounts. The year-over-year change is mostly from the organ fund, which is obviously going to be paid out here soon. So instead, I would like you to look at the checking account net and savings net line items. Combined, we have about $65,000, which is $26,000 lower than the end of 2021. Further, the capital improvement account is $18,000 lower than the end of 2021. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I am proud that we were able to absorb the financial challenges this year, but we lost much of our flexibility. It's gone. So that ends my prepared notes for 22, and let me summarize it this way. Giving was below budget in prior year for the first time in as many years as I can go back and see the financials electronically. Expenses were significantly higher than forecasted due to circumstances that are out of our control. We cannot allow this to turn into a downward trend or even into the status quo. Amidst a difficult backdrop, we collectively managed through it thanks to the staff, the council, all of the volunteers, and the congregational support. Thank you. With that, I will open it up to see if there are any questions before the motion to approve the 2022 financial results.
On this Finance Commission report, and I'm a little confused by the statement here that says ending 2022 with all known building projects being financed through savings and ongoing budget activities. Does that include the sprinkler system that's woefully overdue? The parking lot and lights in the out there? I mean, that's multiple hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, so the sprinkler, let's talk about that. So the projects that are known that have come through that need to be addressed, that does not include the parking lot or lights or any of those type of things. But it does include the sprinkler head replacements, which will be in the budget for 2023.
Well, that's the sprinkler head replacement. We just found out about a month ago that we were granted a 10-year deferral on sprinklers for the education wing. That 10-year period expired years ago, and if somebody from the city comes and says, it's got to be done now.
These are all great points, and I think this is something for everyone to keep in mind. Our financial position is tenuous at best for those type of needs. We just financed $75,000 above the budget to take care of the building, and this does not include things that are going to be higher dollar amounts that may come up or we may need to do. But all known projects for keeping the building running and keeping everybody safe in here, those we have financed. The things that are needs and need to get done now, those are taken care of. Those projects that I would consider to be things that we should take care of or ideally would take care of, we don't have the funds for those. And I think that's an important distinction, and I want everyone to keep that in the back of your mind. We have the building financed to the point it needs to be, but there's always more we can do, and there's probably more we should do, and that may be coming up in the future. Great question, though. Any other questions before we look to make the motion?
I had a question on the four groups like Veep and Oasis that we donate to, we had funds sitting there at the end of the year for those groups. Why are those not given to those groups? It's $2,000 or $3,000 for each group, which I'm sure they could have used.
Yeah, so all of the funds that we raise throughout the year, those are just dispersed to our partners. So some of this disbursement came at the end of the year where we took a small, I'm not going to say the word surplus because we didn't actually have a surplus. We were in a net deficit across all of the funds, but we actually did tithe additional funds that would have happened at the end of the year. There's money that's in the dedicated accounts that also flows through to our partners as well. So the number that you see that we actually spent, the way the church accounting works is we have dedicated accounts where funds that come in for a partner, they go out of a separate account, not our main income statement. And I'm happy to walk over and I can show you the exact numbers of how much we distributed to each of the service partners. But that's a great question though, because I think I get that every so often that it's a unique structure, and I agree. But for everybody here who's hearing this, we are our 4 core service partners, and we are going to increase our giving, and any funds that we do have, we look to disperse them as soon as we do. Yes, Kristen.
I was just going to comment on that. So for things like Beat and Oasis, those funds get sent in January typically. So it's like at the end of the calendar year, December. Yeah, so I've got those checks already. They've already been sent to those two. Things like this, every meal, and Tapestry are kind of bad needs. We pledge to every meal, so we pledge twice a year to them. So they'll get a check from us in March and September of every year. And then Tapestry's kind of unique in itself that when they come here, we typically pay their musicians and everything, so then use those dedicated funds to be able to support their ministry when they're actually physically dinner. Each one's had a different one. But the ones we see like these giveaways that happen in January of
So to paraphrase for anybody who's listening online, the question was, how do we distribute to our 4 core service partners? And 2 of them we are distributing in January. That is the accumulation of anything that we have pledged and the funds that have come in through things like the noisy offerings. Others are as needed, and then Tapestry is when they come to the building. Okay, I think that's, and if anyone's listening to this online and has further questions, please come find us. Any other questions before we take a motion? Yes.
One question was answered. I was curious what the interest rate was on the mortgage, but I think you said that that'll reset in 3 years.
Yeah, so
Is there a cap on that reset, or is it going to go to market rates? Or what's the
also a great question. So most churches are financed on a 10-year basis, and it resets every 5 years. So we had a 20-year mortgage we put out there, so every 5 years it'll reset. And the cheapest rate we got last year was through the Mission Investment Fund, which is part of the ELCA. And they, as a non-banking entity, they determine the correct interest rate based on what they see. There is not a market component to it. So it will reset if you look at where mortgages are now. I'm very grateful we financed that mortgage when we did, but in 3.5 years, it's going to reset higher. My back of the envelope math is guessing that our monthly payment is going to probably go up $2,000 at that time. Obviously, the more principal we can pay down now, the better off we will be, because every 5 years it recalculates on the principal that's outstanding. So last year we prepaid about $40,000 in principal. This year, between the dedicated account and some of the other activities, it was about $20,000 of additional principal we paid down. So we're doing our part, and I would like to see that be a higher number. But obviously, we will work within the budget of what we can for the coming years. But the payment is going to go higher. I'll say it that way.
Well, now the prepayments have got to be weighed against the increase in costs on construction and materials, which is skyrocketing. So
Yep.
it's like it's.
That's kind of our lever to pull to balance the budget at this point, is that we can do what we can do, and as long as we're making the payments that are necessary and under the contract, then that's sufficient, and anything we can do above that is obviously beneficial. All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to seek a motion to approve the 2022 financials.
So moved.
Terry? Second. And Kurt. All right. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Great. Thank you very much.
I forgot I was speaking today. Bullet points are there. That's what I'm going to say. Overall, thank you guys. ultimately, as Matt alluded to, I mean, it has been obviously a very tough economy, and once again, you guys have all continued to come through with your extremely generous donations, you know, especially again in a tough economy. Really, the one thing that the highlight right here is the overall third bullet point, 38, which is I think just a little bit over a third of everybody out there has increased their pledges from last year. So again, thank you for that. So we're, you know, ultimately we're in a very good situation. You know, we're about where we're at from last year. So again, as Matt did allude to, you know, if you guys have not pledged yet, please do so, because again, that is definitely something that we definitely count on with the budget. So any questions on that? Perfect. So again, thank you guys very much for your generosity. Thank you.
Thank you for the 1 minute break, Stu. Thought you were going to run longer. All right, 2023 budget. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you. The budgeted operating income. So we're going to start with pledged faith promises. Total pledges are showing as 3.8% above 2022 and 0.6% above 2021. As we just discussed, some years the entire pledged amount does not come in, but we will pray for keeping this in line or higher. Total faith promises are budgeted at 3.3% above 2022, and total income is budgeted at 2.9% above 2022. As Stu said, we are hopeful that these numbers will rise, so anyone who's contemplating pledging that has not already done so, or contemplating increasing their pledge, just know that every bit helps and is appreciated. So let's go to the next slide, to operating expenses. So this section splits over 2 slides, so I'm just going to mention the bottom line first. Total expenses are projected to be $17,000 higher compared to 2022, which is a 2.9% increase, aka we're proposing a balanced budget. Now there are 2 main categories to discuss on this page. So first is staffing costs. This is going to be higher by $23,000 and is a 7.5% increase compared to 2022 actuals. So this is a mix of increased hours for certain staff to bring them in line with actual demands for the role and a small wage increase. On the latter point, I'll note that that wage increase is slightly below the Personnel Committee's recommendation and the recommendation from the ELCA. We are under their recommendation due to budgetary constraints. And the second is building and grounds. The expenses are budgeted at $113,000, which includes $25,000 for sprinkler head replacements that are needed to bring the building up to code. Absent this one-time expense, the budgeted amount is in line with 2021's expenses and below 2022. If we flip to the next page, I'll touch on the mortgage expense line. We just covered this a little bit, but we're proposing increasing the mortgage payments to $120,000 a year. This is $9,400 above the minimum. And again, our future target is to get as close to that $160,000 that we paid in 2021. It's as soon as possible, but at least we're taking a step in the right direction. So let's go to the last slide. This apparently has some, there we go. Thank you. So to summarize, we're bringing forth a balanced budget. Income and expenses are both due to rise from 2022 actuals by $17,000 or 2.9%. Before I open it up for questions, I will remind the congregation that this budget was prepared before the news of Pastor Eric's departure. We do not know how this will impact the budget in terms of giving or expenses. I ask the congregation here to continue their financial support as we enter the next chapter of CCLC, and in turn, the council will be mindful of expenditures and we will continue to pursue additional income opportunities. And with that, I'm going to conclude the budget section, and I'm going to open it up for questions ahead of the motion. Bill.
So when does the mortgage interest rate get reset?
3.5 years.
So in a rising rate environment, your strategy of paying down that mortgage as fast as possible is really prudent.
Yes.
Because that number could be much higher when it resets.
Yes, so when it resets, as we were saying, the principal that we pay down now is beneficial. So in your home mortgage, if you prepay anything, it's not going to help you, right? Your payment is still your payment. You make those payments along the way. But in an adjustable rate environment, when we go through and we pay down now, when this resets, it'll take the new principal balance into account, which is why we were focusing. If you look at our 2022 budget, we were trying to pay $160,000 again. We were trying to pay as much of this down as fast as possible. The building obviously sidetracked us. Some other things have sidetracked us. But I think the council and going forward, that is the goal, is after I've spoken to as many members of the congregation as possible, possible. We would like to see this mortgage that's been hanging around this building for a very long time paid down as quickly as possible. Moving this out to 20 years has given us the flexibility to do it on our own terms and in lowering the payment. So that $40,000 difference that we were paying in 2021, that was what we were mandated to do. If we were paying at that level right now, we would be coming to the congregation with a $40,000 shortfall. Luckily, we do not have to do that. We can finance it by lowering the mortgage payment, but that will not last for forever. So it is our prudent responsibility to try and do this as fast as we possibly can, given our other constraints we have.
So I was just going to comment on that. Over the last couple decades, that mortgage ended up being the driver for a lot of the financial decisions that we made as a congregation. So I am 100% supportive of the fact that if we can get that paid down quickly, we can stay in the driver's seat rather than letting the next mortgage or the next application dictate to us what it is that we're going to send. So I like your strategy.
Well, thank you. And just for, since this will be the last time everyone's going to hear me speak for a while, this will be, I think, the most important thing that's going to be in front of the council that's coming is we will be looking to pay this down, and we'll hopefully one day be able to finance this away from the Mission Investment Fund. We will look to have more opportunities and puts us on footing for a very long time. I strive to see us here for another 50 years, and this mortgage is that big roadblock that's has been sitting in front of us for a very long time. We are in a good position. I want you to hear that, and we have years for flexibility, but it's one of those things that will be a medium-term concern. Yes?
What is our current principal?
Current principal, let me see if I can find this. And if I don't have this in front of me in 2 seconds, I can get this to you very quickly. Actually, in the interest of time, how about I come by and I'll answer that question for you.
1.45.
There you go. He beat me to it. So 1.45. Over 20 years, I guess 19 years now, but point still stands. Any other questions? And if not, I will be around after if there's anybody else who would like to talk about something does not want to ask a question now. So, okay, so I will look to get propose a motion to approve the 2023 budget. So moved. Can I get a second? Perfect. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much.
Go to the next slide, please. Okay, so we are on to the approval of the designated funds for the purchase of the organ, so we can go to the next slide. A couple things to mention. I just checked with Jamie last night, actually, and these are the most up-to-date numbers that we have. So the amounts that have been donated so far is $85,779 out of a pledged $87,604. There's about 3,150 left to come in by the end of February, so there's a little bit more. That would bring the total to about $88,929. It's important to note that the 2023 budget is completely separate from this organ. So nothing has been used from the congregation, and nothing in the 2023 budget is actually being used to fund the organ. It's all from your guys' donations, above and beyond, I would say, as well. The motion that is on the table is to authorize council and the finance office to spend up to $89,000 in dedicated donations collected expressly for the purpose of purchasing a new organ. We can go to the next slide. Is there any questions on this motion? Okay, I'm looking for someone to bring forward the motion. Eric Nygren, second. Nygren again, we got double Nygrens. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Nominations and elections for the 2023-2024 officers and new commissioners. So Aaron is going to be moving from vice president to president. Andrew Kuplick, is he still here? Is volunteering to be the new vice president. Bill Stevens is going to be the new finance. Jamie Jensen, Jamie, are you here? Is going to be building and grounds, and then Jamie Manzi Moore is going to be our worship, music, and arts. So is there any discussion related to that? We usually move through this one pretty quickly, right? Okay, so I don't know if I need to do an actual motion on this, but unanimous consent, everybody say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, we're good there. Next slide. Pastor report.
Thank you very much to Eric, Aaron, Matt, our executive committee, the entire council and staff for an excellent year. And as far as my slide here, my report is obviously going to be very different than in the last several years. I just wanted to emphasize a large thank you for 16 wonderful years as your pastor. It's been an incredible blessing to serve as part of this congregation. And on behalf of my family, I know as I look at sad faces, we are sad to be leaving. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the first service, if there's any question, there is no reason that we are leaving. In fact, a big part of the discernment has been, I don't want to leave. But 16 years has been a great tenure and shared ministry. And so I do believe that this is God calling. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. That's been part of the discernment. God is calling me to be the community care pastor at Easter Lutheran Church in Eagan. And again, I want to emphasize, it is very hard to leave. In the end, I'm taking a leap of faith. I'm excited to see what God has in store for my next chapter, but a point to emphasize here during our annual meeting is that I am also confident, as part of what my discernment means obviously something for Community of the Cross. I am confident that God is calling a gifted new pastor to uphold the office of ministry here at Community of the Cross into your next chapter as well. I am here for several more weeks, and so there's going to be time to talk. If anyone would like to have me meet with you, or if you'd like to talk, have a phone conversation or anything else, please reach out. I'm reaching out to many. I may be eventually getting to you, but if it's taking too long, please call me. I'm very happy to be an open book and discuss any questions or concerns you have. At this time, I would like to have you pray with me. Lord God, you have called your servants to ventures of which we cannot see the ending, by paths as yet untrodden through perils unknown. Give us faith to go out with good courage, not knowing where we go, but only that your hand is leading us and your love supporting us. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. And all the people said, Amen.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. Well, so much for a lame duck presidency, huh? When I wrote my letter to the congregation, I didn't realize that when I said new opportunities and things just keep popping up. I mean, Eric knew when he read it. But yes, things just keep popping up and we have new opportunities. I would first of all, just like personal thoughts here. Number one, I think it's a good thing that we are leaving on good terms, you know, and hopefully I don't choke up, but it is nice to have a pastor that is leaving because he feels called and feels like this is the right step. I do believe that CCLC is in a really good place as well. And I think Pastor Eric wouldn't, if you want to say, choose to do this if he didn't feel like this is a good time, you know. Over the last 5 years, basically, that I've been involved in church council, I've seen the church grow, I've seen it get stronger and stronger, and I think we are in a really, really good position. With that said, this is a new opportunity for us as well. You know, 16 years is a long time to have a pastor here. I've been teaching at Edina High School for 20 years. You know, so I understand, and it gets to this point where it's like we are ready to grow and move and find new opportunities. So I would say to the congregation that yes, we have a transition, and sometimes transitions are hard, but we also have opportunities, you know. And so from this point, basically in the last week, it feels like we've been trying to hit a bunch of things as they are coming in. And so by all means, we do not have a plan set in place that is set in place. So this is what, 3 days ago we put into the agenda for this meeting. So this is what we're kind of thinking. And one of the things to start out with is there is no rush for this. We are going to work with the Synod. Synod will help us out with interim pastors and get things going in that light. Aaron and I have already talked with the idea of having a transition team. From what the Synod has said, this is kind of their timeline, if you will. I put in months after it just to kind of get to this point of like, where would we want to be when summer hits, And there is a point where the bishop will come to the congregation and have a congregation or a conversation with us. I think that would be best if we could have that done before summer. So again, I don't want to say that we got to go through this too fast, but you don't want to do it too slow either, So we can do a transition team and or a call committee. Aaron and I are talking about who is going to lead that and who from the congregation could or should be members of that team. We're looking for about 6 to 8 people, not too big but not too small as well. So if you are interested in being part of this transition team and or call committee, please do come talk to us, okay? As far as how we're going to handle this as a council, just yesterday I sent an email to the council members and we put staff on that as well, so we will try to work as one team to keep this going also. So with that, I think we're going to talk to the Synod representative this week and then hopefully have more details. I would expect maybe monthly updates through the crossbeam. Hopefully you won't see us. I mean, Matt said this is the last time talking in front of the church. I thought that in my head as well, but yeah. So we'll give you updates about what's going on, but please let us know if you have any ability to help us out, if you are looking to help volunteer, serve, just anything that you can do. We want you to realize that this is an all hands on deck kind of a thing, not just council and staff. So why don't we do maybe individual questions just for time's sake, like after the meeting. If you have questions, Aaron and I will stay over here, the executive committee will stay over here, but then over the next couple of weeks, let's just keep having these conversations. So yeah. All right, we can go to the next slide. Okay, with that, we will close with the Lord's Prayer. Do you want to do this?
Please pray with me. Almighty God, your Holy Spirit equips the church with a rich variety of gifts. Grant that we may use them to bear witness to Christ in lives that are built on faith and love. Make us ready to live the gospel and eager to do your will, so that we may share with all your church in the joys of eternal life. Through Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord, who taught us to pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting. First Lizzie, second. Andrew in the back. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.